This video is brought to you by Blessed Be God Boutique, maker of Catholic fashionable apparel, handmade accessories, and more. We often ask ourselves, why don't priests act with courage to deny communion and the sacraments to public, unrepentant, sinning Catholics, especially politicians who have a outsized influence on the culture more than anybody else, especially in this modern age, when politicians are treated as if they are celebrities for some reason, and celebrities are treated as if they're royalty, or they're treated as if they are thought leaders and should be taken seriously. We should never take what a prince of the world has to say all that seriously on any issue, but especially one on morality. Never trust politicians or celebrities, especially ones you like. If you happen to like them, you should actually view them with a little more suspicion, since you are more likely to be manipulated by somebody you like. That's a general good life rule. And we have a story today that shows you exactly why priests don't act with the force they need to when dealing with public unrepentant sinners. A priest was recently punished for denying the mayor of a town, who was an open socialist, Holy Communion. But he didn't deny him communion because of his politics so much. Although if you look at the history of the church's teaching on political ideology, you could see that would be perfect grounds for it, as Leo XIII himself said, and every pope thereafter until the last decade or so has said that Catholicism and the hammer and sickle ideology are themselves not compatible. They simply are not. You cannot be both, because one turns the state into God and the other demands that you worship God before anything else. You cannot do that. You cannot have both at the same time. They're not compatible. Be that as it may, it wasn't actually necessarily his political views that caused this. The priest denied the mayor of this because, surprise, surprise to no one, not only were they an adherent to the hammer and sickle ideology, they were a proud member of the James Martin Brigade, publicly living in accordance with whatever there passes for morality with that. And as such, the James Martin Brigade membership is what caused him to be denied public communion. I'm going to remind you now, we live in the order of the church in the aftermath of Fiducia Supplicans, a document that explicitly says that these pairings can be blessed, that the individuals in them can receive blessings, with the implementation of it, including communion for those who are living that life. It's profoundly anti-Catholic, but that's where we are. And as a consequence of this, those who stand up against it get punished. Unless, of course, you're an entire bishops' conference in, say, Africa, where you stand up and say no to that while simultaneously asking for the church to change her teachings on the people being married to multiple people at a time issue. They do that in Africa. The African bishops have asked the church to deal with that. So I don't put your hope in the Church of Africa, by the way. But let's get to the story. You see, a priest did the right thing, and he got punished for it. So we go to Info Vaticana for this headline. Media and political witch hunt against a priest from the Diocese of Segovia for refusing communion to the socialist mayor of a town. Now, I don't have a problem with communion being denied to someone of the James Martin Brigade who is active. And again, this is not comparing them to people who have those inclinations, but submit themselves to the church's teaching, live how Catholics are supposed to live with that, meaning they don't engage in that stuff. They stay close to the sacraments. They live a life of chastity and penance. We're not talking about them. Those are heroes of the faith. We are talking about James Martin types who think the church got it wrong, want the church's teaching to change, and want the church to get with the times and present a more secular, friendly vision of morality. That's who we're talking about here. Such a person should be denied Holy Communion. After all, they wantonly disregard the teachings of the faith, lead souls astray themselves by saying, well, this guy's receiving communion and look at him. So why can't I? When they're maybe guilty of some lesser but still unequivocal mortal sin. Not to mention, of course, the salvation of the person being in question who is engaging in those activities anyway. After all, if you receive Holy Communion knowingly, when you're not in a state of grace, you eat and drink your own condemnation upon yourself. Keep that in mind. This is always about souls, the souls of the person who are receiving and the soul of the priest who is giving. And in that, pray for this priest and pray for the person you're about to hear about who got this priest canceled for doing, frankly, his job. From the article, quote, last Saturday, the member of the James Martin Brigade Socialist Mayor of Torrechabayos, Ruben Garcia de Andres, shared on a social media that local priest denied him communion. The reason? The priest told him he could not receive the Holy Communion because he lives with a person like himself, that is, in sin. After talking with my parish priest, he told me he would consult a bishopric, and I asked for a written communication. In the email response from the bishopric, I was told that they had not spoken with the priest and that the doctrine is clear, narrates the victimized mayor of Torrecaballados. He also revealed that until 2 years ago, he was collaborating with the Diocese of Segovia as a, quote, celebrant of the word. This is the priest. The diocese withdrew him from that service following the, quote, action of inquisitorial fingers. As often happens with this group, this person has taken this incident, which is what the Catholic Church has always taught, to victimize himself and launch an attack against the priest. The socialist mayor says that, quote, the prevailing fear of the James Martin crowd among the inquisitorial figures of those who accuse in Pasaderia and Torrecaballados fuels the fear of the James Martin crowd of part of the Church of Segovia. In an exercise of emotional manipulation that shows an obvious lack of Catholic morals, the mayor of Torrecaballados claims that being denied communion is a decision that causes, quote, a lot of pain, especially to his family, which is why he announces he will not forgive, quote, that institution, referring to the Catholic Church, for the pain it has caused his family. Moreover, this mayor, who lives contrary to Catholic morality, regrets that, quote, the spring of Francis has not yet reached the Church of Segovia. This mayor again laments that he cannot receive communion, quote, for being a member of the James Martin Brigade and living with the person they sin with. It seems he does not know that one cannot receive communion while in a state of sin. That is not a surprise. If you are not open about it and more false than Judas, you can receive communion, and that's it, mocks the person in question. Finally, in an act of wanting to become some sort of Robin Hood, he announces he will continue, quote, fighting and working to my last breath to change the situation. As usual, a priest simply adhering to the precepts established by the church has been magnified by the media, accusing the priest of being afraid of the James Martin crowd and intolerance for defending the sanctity and presence of Christ's body in the holy host and avoiding sacrilege. Spain's Minister of Equality, who seems to have a lot of free time, has weighed in on this issue and, in an outburst of Catholicity, has resorted to manipulating the gospel to cite the New Testament passage from Galatians chapter 3, verse 28, which says, quote, there's neither Jew nor Greek, there's neither someone in servitude nor free, there is no male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. On a redondo, the Minister of Equality received a sharp rebuke from Father Pablo Piche, who responded with a passage from Corinthians 6, reminding which sinners will not inherit the kingdom of God. End quote. Well, the article goes on. There's some more there if you want to look at it. Links will be today in the show notes at returntotradition.org. I suggest you go check that out if you are so interested. So to review, priest did the right thing. Got even a little bit of support from the diocese at first, and he was punished for it. Removed from active ministry. That, ladies and gentlemen, is synodality. Remember, the new religion, the new synodal church, to use the words of the organizers of the Synod on Synodality themselves, says explicitly that the church will dialogue and accompany and listen and be not too terribly judgy. And they call it a new church because it's a new religion, because that's not Catholicism. Yes, we're not supposed to judge the eternal destiny of anybody. That's up to God. But we can use common sense and intervene with sinners. We are to rebuke sinners. We are to correct them. And when someone is sinning publicly, we are to correct them. Why? Because at the end of the day, the church's primary mission is the salvation of souls. And you and I are engaged in that mission as well. Not merely our own salvation, which is of tantamount importance and should never escape our awareness, but also of those around us. And our own salvation may be tied to the behaviors of other people, how we failed to act in dealing with them, or how we acted. Not necessarily our own success with it, but did we at least try to witness to the truth? Did we at least try to be a lifeline to that person? You know, there are missionaries, Protestant missionaries, Catholic missionaries, they all kind of cite the same data, which is it often takes a person 40 encounters with people, with the gospel, to people offering them the gospel, Bibles, whatever, before they convert, or before they begin the process of conversion. 40. Now think about that, and then think about what it must be for rebuking public sinners, or someone who is just openly sinning, unrepentantly. How long does it take
before someone starts thinking about where they are. Not even before they walk away from the sin, before they start that process of spiritual cleansing themselves, getting away from impurity. It's almost always impurity. How long before they begin the process, which is a process of grace? It takes the grace of God to walk away from this stuff, especially the James Martin sin. Again, this is why groups like Courage International, if you're going to support a Catholic organization that isn't seminarians or something, support Courage International. Go and do that. They didn't ask me to tell you that, just telling you to do it. They are heroes of the faith. And look to them if you're looking for saints today. What do you think of this story? I'm telling you right now, pray for that priest, pray for that mayor who came down like the wrath of God on the priest and got him canceled. Come down and pray for them. They need it. But what do you think about this story? Are you that surprised by this? Do you think you're going to see more of it? Or do you think, as these stories kind of start to get out there into the news cycle, you're going to see a lot of priests just quietly have an interiorly broken heart and give the Eucharist to somebody who will then commit sacrilege? Wonder what happens if a priest takes that approach. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It certainly helps. So does sharing this on social media. That helps too. And as always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.